Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of One Mic where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about the new film Godzilla vs. Kong, which is in theaters today, March 31st, and also on HBO Max for about the next month or so. HBO Max, as you guys probably know by now, has been releasing, well, actually, I can't say HBO Max, Warner Brothers has been releasing some of their big films on HBO Max in addition to putting them in theaters. I guess to just, get them out and make sure that people are seeing them. So this Godzilla versus Kong one dropped today. Now, I want to start by saying this is not my genre. I typically stay away from monster movies, disaster movies, and the Fast and the Furious franchise. And the reason I say that is for me, those genres, and to a lesser extent the horror film genre as a whole as well. But to me, those movies are always just too dumb for my taste. And when I say that, that's not me saying that's not an indictment on those of you who might be fans of those kinds of movies. There's just certain things that when you go into a movie, you have to be willing to accept. And there are things that I can't accept that are present in those types of films. It just doesn't work for me. So like in the same manner that maybe I like superhero movies. I could see somebody going, superhero movies are just too dumb for me. I don't have any interest in these movies. They have certain problems that I don't care for. There's certain aspects of them that I don't like. So they're just not for me. And I'm not going to sit here and take some sort of offense to that. That's films just not for that. Those types of films are just not for that person. But for me, superhero movies, horror movies, the horror movie genre as a whole, monster movies, disaster movies, and the Fast and Furious franchise I just can't. There's too many issues. But for this film specifically, I decided I'd give it a shot. I heard that there was like a crazy long and good action sequence that took place, and I do like action films. I kind of like them mostly when the action is kind of like just the main purpose for the movie and they don't really put too much effort into the story. And that might be kind of surprising because with a lot of these movies, the monster movies and disaster movies, a lot of the things that I say about them, the bad things, are generally about the poor structure of the storyline or the acting or the implausibility. But when it comes to for action movies, I kind of just like to see the action, and I only really need a very basic storyline. So like think of like your Rambo film or something like that. It's always like, so-and-so killed my family, now I need revenge. And there's your storyline, and that's it. And it's just a vehicle to give Sylvester Stallone the opportunity to kill people in wild and crazy and creative ways. And I'm down with that. But these disaster movies and the monster movies, they try to be smart and fail miserably, so that's why it's really hard for me to get into them. But speaking specifically about Godzilla vs. Kong, this one falls into, into those categories. I wish I hadn't watched it. And this isn't me saying that this movie is not to be watched. It is not for me. So while I'm talking about the things that I liked, very few things, and the things that I didn't like, if those are things that resonate with you, then you might not want to watch the movie. But if those are things you don't care about and you already know you like these types of films, then hey, ignore me. Just watch it if you fucking want to. It doesn't matter to me. But I want to talk about a couple of the things that I did like, which very few. There's a little girl that was cast in this film who she plays I want to say almost like the adoptive daughter of one of the adult characters. And she's deaf, and she attempts to communicate. She attempts with her. The relationship between her and this caregiver is not clearly explained, but I think she was adopted by this woman. They communicate via sign language, of course, right? And eventually, at some point, we come to understand that she can communicate with Kong this way. I thought this little girl was absolutely adorable. Just somebody who was just like a really cute kid to have in a film. Kind of think of like if you've watched Raya and the Last Dragon, which is on Disney Plus, but I think you got to pay for it, and it's in theaters. There's like a kid character in that that's just kind of like, oh, this is a cute kid. Like it obviously animated, but oh, this is a nice little cute kid character, and that's kind of how she was. She was just a really interesting character. She was really adorable. I enjoyed her on the screen, and then did a little bit of research on her, and she's actually deaf, and this is like her first movie. So I thought that was pretty cool to one cast a deaf character. I mean, I'm sorry, a deaf actor to play a deaf character when theoretically you don't have to do that, and that's the right thing to do. It's the smart thing to do, and you could have theoretically written it without the character being deaf at all. But you know, they wrote a deaf character and they cast a deaf girl, and I thought that was pretty cool. And like I said, she's absolutely adorable. So I really like this girl. The other thing I liked, yes, there's only two, was the animation, like the computer animation for the monsters. I mean, they looked amazing. Like even so, like I watched it on one of my computer screens. So like I have in my office here, I have my work stuff and I have my personal stuff. So I have my work computer and I have my personal computer. When I'm in here, if I'm watching something, I'm generally watching it on my personal computer because I haven't put a TV in here. I don't really intend to either, and because my monitor is perfectly fine. But again, it's a computer monitor. It's not a fucking 70-inch flat screen, fucking QLED, whatever the fuck, right? But watching it on my computer screen, I was still wildly impressed with how good these characters looked. Like the attention to detail in these monsters was insane. So like I really appreciate that aspect of it. The action sequences were I wouldn't file them under things that I like, but the action sequences were serviceable. They were not something where I'm just like, it's not the kind of thing where if I'm in the theater, I'm going, ooh, whoa, you're like getting hype. It's kind of like I'm just sitting there watching it like, okay, this is happening. It's not bad, but it's just happening. There was nothing that I found to be incredibly impressive or exciting about any of the action sequences, but they were okay. They were serviceable. So everything else about the film was pretty fucking stupid. I don't want to spoil it because in case you want to watch it, I don't want to give away plot points, but I will talk about a couple of the things that were stupid enough to make it into this video. The first being, one of the reasons that I don't like disaster movies, monster movies, Fast and Furious franchise, is there's always a character, particularly in the disaster movies and the horror movies, monster movies, there's always a character who, in the face of overwhelming factual evidence, will remain stuck on stupid no matter the fuck what. And that character is present in this film, says and does a number of moronic things. And I can't tolerate those type of characters anymore. Speaking of which, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. Like, I'm not doing any more monster movies. I had already decided I wasn't gonna watch any more disaster movies. But monster movies are even worse, and I'm done. I can't tolerate this type of character anymore. To give you an idea, she says something like, I think I wrote it down. Oh, she always referred to Kong as like the monkey. And like she oversimplified things. Like there was a moment where I think someone said like Godzilla's coming for Kong, and she said something just like, "Well, let's just dump the monkey. Let's just dump the monkey." Yeah, that sounds like a very reasonable action to take. I'm sure it's that simple and that it's that easy. Maybe you can, like, they were on a boat, like a big carrier type boat. I'm sure you could just I'm sure there's a button you can push that just tilts the boat like this, and then Kong can just fall off into the water and everything will be fine. Or maybe you can get maybe like 100 people and they can just push them into the water. Just dump the monkey. Here you go, Godzilla. Movie over. What kind of stupid fucking thing is that? Who wrote that? Dump the monkey. Yeah, that seems smart. Like, and this kind of character does and says those sorts of things every time they're on the screen. The moment this character shows up, she shows herself to be an incredibly obnoxious person. And I don't understand why they shoehorn in this purposefully stupid character into every single monster and disaster movie. There's always that person who, in the face of overwhelming evidence, like they will still not believe what's going on. Like she doesn't do this, but like the type of character I'm talking about is the type of character to look at Kong and fashion up some explanation as for why he's not a threat or not real. Like you are like willfully stupid. That's the character. That's how I like to describe this character. This willfully stupid character that appears in every horror movie, every disaster movie, every monster movie, and says and does things that are so stupid that it pisses me off because it makes me think that the writers of this film don't respect my intelligence enough to accept the fact that I'm not gonna like this character. Like, this character doesn't make sense. It's like they think like, hey, let's just shove in this the stupid character that would do something that no one else on Earth would ever do. Let's put that character in, and I bet no one's gonna give a fuck. And like, that's what irritates me, because like, as stupid as I think humanity is, that character in this film always does things that I don't think any person would ever actually do. Because it always revolves around them ignoring what's right in front of them. And no matter how stupid or how slow or how ignorant or like stubborn a real life human is, you put visual evidence of something in front of their eyes, they are not still going to stand there and go, that's not happening or that's not real. And they put that character in this movie, as they do all of these movies, and I'm fucking sick of that fucking character. Like, my God, I'm so fucking sick of that character. And this movie was replete with like really shitty fucking dialogue. Like, there's one moment where like, the dialogue is predictable. There was a moment where one of the characters was talking to another one of the characters. Who gives a they barely even mention these characters' names for me to even give you their names. But one character says something to another about Godzilla and Kong fighting, and that the ultimate issue is who bows to who. And as soon as he said who bows to who, because the character he's talking to is like Kong's like handler, I guess maybe you could call it. As soon as he says this, I go, but Kong bows to no one. And then she goes, well, one thing we have to embraces, throws another, a sentence or two in there. Well, one thing we have to consider, blah, 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 Kong bows to no one. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. Like, who wrote this? An 8-year-old? Like, yeah, Kong bow. Who's about to Kong bows to no one? Like, okay, yeah. Thank you for writing this incredibly hacky fucking dialogue. Like, oh, great. And there's another one where like they're flying this ship, and they're flying after Kong, and the character on the ship says, "Kong's on the move. We gotta go." You never stopped going. You're literally mid-flight. Like, what? Like, who writes this kind of shit, man? And then here's my favorite one. So there's I don't know if this is a spoiler. I feel like fans of monster movies already know this character exists, because one of the characters speaks its name unprompted. So like long story short, I'm not gonna spoil the film at all, but there's this Apex corporation that essentially makes like a robot Godzilla that they plan on manning remotely. Think of like what's the Pacific Rim. But the only difference is like those guys were actually inside the robots, whereas like this guy is going to pilot this robot Godzilla remotely. And the whole idea is because we need to have an alpha creature, whereas so we don't have to kowtow to Godzilla or to Kong. We have our own thing that's better than both of them, right? Okay, so one of the characters goes, Mechagodzilla. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's a thing. I don't fucking care. But anyway, Mechagodzilla, right? It's a fucking robot Godzilla. It becomes sentient for some reason. I don't, maybe they explain how it became sentient. I don't know, but maybe I missed it. But there's a lot of like hacky science, like where there's like shit that doesn't really make sense, but whatever, it sounds scientific, so we put it in there. For some reason, this thing becomes sentient. It kills the guy who created it. It kills the guy piloting it. It escapes. It starts fighting regular Godzilla, and then a character, and then the character, and this is the character played by Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. She goes, "It's thinking for itself now." Like, you didn't catch that 5 minutes ago? Like, that's the kind of shit about these movies that pisses me off, because like they don't respect our intelligence as an audience. Like, what? Like, I don't even know how it became sentient. Like I said, maybe I looked at my phone for a minute. Maybe it's not in the movie. It doesn't matter. It became sentient. I saw it kill the guy that created it. When you see it kill the guy that's piloting it, that's the clue right there that it's now sentient. They should respect me as a viewer enough for me to know, okay, this thing's thinking on its own now because it just killed the guy that's supposedly piloting it. But no. They had to actually have a character verbalize the obvious. It's thinking on its own now. I wanted to turn the movie off at that point, because I'm like, okay, this movie clearly thinks I'm a fucking idiot, so why am I still watching this shit? But yeah, so that was my good time with the phenomenal fucking dialogue in this film. And then another thing that I didn't like is I don't know if, like, a lot of times I can write off like bad science where it's like they're just saying shit that sounds scientific and I'm supposed to accept it. And 90% of the time I do. I'm like, I don't understand that. Maybe the writers who wrote it do understand that. So I'm going to accept their conclusion based on whatever scientific mumbo jumbo they just said. There's a scene where they go to a point called, I think it's called Hollow Earth, that appears to be not just inside the earth, but possibly through like some different kind of like portal or something. And I'm guessing, again, this kind of concept exists in prior movies that I haven't seen, nor will I ever see in the future. But I'm guessing this sort of thing is not completely new to this specific film. I keep calling him Eric, but it's Alexander Skarsgård, who played Eric on True Blood. He plays an interesting character, and he tells a story about how his brother died trying to go to this place because gravity inverted instantly and crushed him. Now, again, I'm also assuming that this happened in a previous movie and this isn't like an actual story that this character is telling us that's important. I'm assuming it's kind of like they're touching on it for those of us who haven't seen any of the prior films, but this might be something that played out in one of the previous movies. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, they create, well, Eric doesn't create this, and again, I don't know his name in the movie. I'll call him Alexander Skarsgård. Alexander's character, he doesn't create it, but this company creates this vehicle that should withstand the inversion of gravity. So they go through, they make it through, and I mean, hey, if I shouldn't really worry about spoilers for shitty movies like this, but whatever. They make it through, and as they're flying through this world, now this is like a completely different world. It looks like the Skull Island that Kong came from, but there's all kinds of weird monsters there. There's no sky. It just looks like an inverted ground where the sky would be. There's a moment where Kong is reaching for something and starts floating. So, like, again, this is an indication to me that maybe gravity works differently in this place. And then they land their ship and everybody just walks the fuck out in their regular clothes. And I'm taking notes and I'm writing down, like, I hope they got some special anti-gravity suits or something. Like, do you know if the air is okay down here? Like, I mean, and that's the kind of shit that I think about. And it's not like I'm going into this movie looking for super sciencey shit for me to pick apart in an action movie, because of course that'd be dumb, right? Like, why would you go into, an action movie, a monster movie, looking for picking apart things for scientific accuracy? And I'll tell you why. It's because they try to present things with scientific accuracy. So if you present things in a way that's meant to be sound sciencey, then I'm gonna look at it from that perspective. And when you talk about inverting gravity and crushing, and the inversion of gravity crushing these ships and all that, and then I'm seeing Kong floating, you are telling me some shit about the atmosphere within this place and about the gravity, and then your characters don't do their actions don't mirror what you are telling me about this place. Like, there's no reason to believe they should be able to just walk out in plain clothes. No helmets, no suits, no nothing. They just walk out in plain clothes. I wouldn't even want to try that if I just went through a portal to a place called Hollow Earth and I'm seeing like monsters flying around. I see Kong floating somewhere. I'm not just walking off that ship. I'm like, let me at least get a helmet or something in case the air isn't breathable or something. I'm gonna hold on, like, in case I start floating away. I don't know, but man, fuck this movie, man. I really wish I hadn't watched it, and I'm not gonna watch any more monster movies ever again. I'm done. But again, this is something that, like I said, these movies just do not resonate with me. They always try to present something in sciencey because it's a monster movie, so you want to try to lend some sort of credibility and believability to it. They present these things, and they never live up to them. They're like, hey, here's a whole bunch of science words, and now we're going to actually show you stupid shit. Like that doesn't work for me. The character that's willfully stupid in the face of evidence does not work for me. All of these things that are completely implausible, I could accept them when they're not when they're not trying to be presented in an intelligent way, but you are giving me stupidity and insulting my intelligence as a viewer. When you got characters saying shit like, it's thinking for itself, when it was evident that it was thinking for itself 5 minutes ago. So again, if you already like these types of movies and you've seen the prior ones, I bet you're going to fucking love this one. But If you haven't seen it, it's not in your wheelhouse, and you're willing to accept my assessment. My assessment is if you're older than like 6, you're not going to like this shit. All right. So I'll end it on that note. And I'll see you guys whenever the next movie comes out that I'm going to review. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but things are picking up, so we'll see. Until then, peace.